Hello, this video is going to demonstrate the mass create action which has recently been added into the Simply List Views app. This was a request from somebody and there's many different mass create varieties out there. Some allow you to cut and paste, some are fairly basic. This is a fairly basic use for it. I'm hoping that it provides most of the functionality that people need. I have put this, it's probably one of the only beta things out there right now, which might change based on feedback from users. And so the idea here is that we need to be able to, just quickly and easily, almost in an Excel spreadsheet format, be able to add new data. Given that it's simply list views, I'm utilizing the list views themselves in order to understand what fields to display on the screen in order to mass create, whatever objects. I'm trying to make this as abstract as possible so that, any objects can be used. Now, of course, one thing that this feature doesn't do is if you have a list view which gets data from a user and the data is not does not include a field which is required, it's going to break. Okay, so use this sparingly. It is just object by object, and just make very sure that the objects, or the fields rather, that are available for the user to be able to mass create are the ones that are needed. And if any are missing, then it's going to fail. So let's get right to it. On the screen here, I have two different varieties. There's two different ways of setting up the mass create in order for us to be able to get the job done. One is a very generic approach, and you can see here I've actually named it generic. This is to allow us to go to any object, and as you can see here, the object type has not been set, and have the mass create actually work. Now, you'll notice here really that the difference here is that for the other mass create configuration, the object type has been set and the mass create list view name has been set. Now, if the list view name has been set, you have to also supply the object type, and these two need to match. And the reason for that is, I will display it as we go. Sometimes it's the case that you're on a particular object and you're displaying a specific list view, but you don't want to use that list view for mass creation. You want to use maybe a different list view. So it just gives the flexibility for us to be able to say, yes, I do want to mass create, but I don't want to use the list view that I'm on. I want to use a different list view. This allows you to do that. Okay, so by showing these on the screen, it allows you guys to go away and basically almost cut and paste the data in so that you can create your own actions. Right now, I have not added these actions in when we do updates, but you can create these actions and they should work. A very important thing to note here is the Apex class name. It must be list view action mass create. Okay, so if we now go, I'm going to just double click on this particular one over here so that we can go and see examples. I'm going to go to the everything example. And I'm going to, let me just first change to the Platinum and Gold SLA customers, for example. And if I go to the select an action, you'll see there that the two mass create are available. Of course, that the one, if I was to say go to contacts, for instance, and then I was to select an action, you'll know that this one says accounts. It really should just be mass create generic. The other one doesn't display, and the reason why is because it has a specific object type that it is available for. It's only available when we go to the account object. Okay, so if we go back to the account object, you'll see it here. There it is, and we can click on it. Okay, and for this particular one, it's the one where we have dictated exactly the list view name the list view that we want to be displaying when we actually do the mass create. So you can see here for this particular example, there's account type, annual revenue, username, profile name. But then if we go to mass create accounts all, the fields are going to be very different. Okay, and that is because it is using a different list view. Okay, so you can specifically set the list view that you want to have displayed, when we're doing the mass create. So here you can just come in and make your changes, and once you've added your account information, you can click create. Note that any of the fields where no data has been changed, any of the rows where no data has been changed, obviously that row will just be disregarded. But if any row is changed, it will be included. And of course, you could add an account name here and an account name here. Those would be included even if the middle ones weren't. So that's good. Another thing you'll notice here is that there's quite a few records, rows that are provided. As a matter of fact, there are 50 rows that are provided, and this is an org-wide setting. So if you go into the list views admin here and you scroll down near the bottom, you'll see here there's a new admin field called mass create row count. This is to allow you to identify, it's kind of a bit of a hammer right now, bludgeon tool, which basically says, allow 50. Maybe I will change that to be per page. I'm not quite sure yet whether we want to go down that route. I feel like if we just set it to something like 50, it should kind of, any more than that, you probably want to use Excel or something like that. So if we go back and we get out of that, you'll notice that if we then go to the generic, what it's going to do is, because it's generic, if we go and look at the generic here, you'll see here that the list view name hasn't been set. So what we're going to do is we're going to be using this particular list view that you're on. Now remember that the mass create does not check to see whether you are actually allowed to create the records or not. It doesn't check for validation rules. It just tries to insert the data. And it's assuming that your triggers and validation rules are going to run appropriately. So to be very careful when you're allowing people to just mass create. So if we use the generic here, okay, you'll see here that it's slightly different. Billing state, provinces included, annual revenue, all that kind of stuff. Note, of course, that some of these fields are not included. Any fields that are not editable in general will not be included in this mass create. Okay, so if we were to double click on this particular row to make changes, you'll see that there are only 6 fields that are available to be updated. That's because all the other fields are either read-only or on different objects. Okay, only those fields that are editable are going to be inside of the mass create. So those fields, if we then go and have another look at the mass create, you'll see again that there are 6 fields, and those are the fields that were made available. Again, there are 50 rows. Make whatever changes you need to. Click create. Should be good to go, assuming your triggers and validation rules are good. So definitely give some feedback if you like it. If you don't, maybe we can make some changes. We'll see how it goes. It's a bit of a rat's nest with regards to what people want, and we're going to have to go carefully. So looking forward to see what people think, and happy list viewing.